Story 1. The snooze button war asterisk. It always begins the same way. A quiet dark room, a cozy bed. A blanket wrapped around you like the protective embrace of a mother bear. And then the enemy arrives, not a dragon, not an army, not a giant monster, with laser beams shooting out of its eyes. No, the enemy is far smaller and far more cunning. It is the alarm clock. At first, it seems harmless. Just a little device sitting on your nightstand with its innocent glowing numbers. It waits patiently through the night like a loyal guard. But as the first rays of sunlight touch the horizon, it strikes with the subtlety of a hammer crashing down on your dreams. Beep, beep, beep. The sound is not melodic. It is not inspiring. It is the call of battle. The signal that the snooze button war has begun once again. You open one eye. You know what is happening. You have been here before. You have fought this war every morning of your life. Your hand rises slowly like a soldier lifting his shield. You reach out into the darkness. There it is. That smooth little button promising salvation. The snooze button. You press it. Silence returns. Victory, or so you think. 5 minutes later, the attack begins again. Beep, beep, beep. You are shocked. How can the enemy regroup so quickly? You were just on the battlefield. You had just claimed victory. And yet the alarm is back, more determined than ever. You are caught between two worlds. One is the world of dreams where you are flying over mountains or eating endless pizza with no consequences. The other is the cruel reality where you have to get out of bed, shower, brush your teeth, and face traffic. Of course you choose dreams. You hit snooze again. Now the cycle repeats. Every 5 minutes. The snooze button calls to you like a siren. Just one more nap. Just one more round of delicious unconsciousness. It is never just one more. The war escalates. The alarm attacks, you defend. The alarm screams, you retaliate. It is an endless struggle with no final winner. Some mornings you imagine the snooze button as a mischievous trickster. Maybe it is Loki himself hiding in your alarm clock, laughing as you press the button again and again. Other times you see it as a greedy landlord collecting rent every 5 minutes. Pay up with your time. Pay up with your future productivity. You never win this negotiation. There are mornings when you bargain. You promise yourself that after the snooze you will wake up. You swear on everything sacred. You even create detailed plans. You will wake up, stretch, drink water, do yoga, maybe even write a novel before breakfast. But the snooze button knows the truth. It knows you will break your promise. You always do. Then there are the mornings when you get philosophical. You lie there staring at the ceiling while the alarm screams in your ear. You wonder why humans invented alarm clocks in the first place. Was life not better when we simply woke up with the sun like ancient farmers? Did Plato ever snooze? Did Aristotle struggle to get out of bed? You suspect the great philosophers would have pressed snooze at least once or twice. At times, the war gets personal. You start talking to the alarm clock. Stop it, you little demon. Just give me peace. I'm tired. I will wake up eventually. The alarm does not care. It has no sympathy. Its only mission is to drag you out of bed. Sometimes you dream inside the snooze cycle. You press snooze and immediately drift into a dream where you are fighting an actual battle. You are a knight with a sword clashing against enemies. The enemies shout beep, beep, beep. You strike them down. You wake up thinking you have won. But then the alarm screams again and you realize the dream was only another trick in the endless war. Experts say that snoozing makes you more tired. Sleep scientists warn that these broken little naps confuse your brain. But in the heat of the morning battle, logic disappears. All you know is that 5 more minutes feels like a miracle. Those 5 minutes are priceless. You would trade kingdoms for those minutes. And yet when you finally crawl out of bed, you realize that all those extra snoozes added up to nothing but panic because now you are late. The snooze button war does not stay confined to your bedroom. It spills into the rest of your life. You rush to brush your teeth with toothpaste on your shirt. You eat breakfast standing up. You run to catch the bus while tying your shoes. Your coworkers ask why you look like you fought a bear. You smile weakly and say you had a battle with your alarm. They nod knowingly. They too are soldiers in this war. Some people brag that they never snooze. They wake up at the first beep like champions. You do not trust these people. They are either lying or secretly robots. How can anyone resist the magnetic pull of that button? It is too perfect, too tempting. It is the candy of the morning world. There are strategies. Some warriors place their alarm clock across the room so they have to stand up to turn it off. This works for a while, but eventually you become skilled enough to walk across the room with your eyes closed, smash the snooze button, and stumble back to bed without remembering any of it. Your body has adapted like a soldier evolving on the battlefield. Others try. Multiple alarms. Phone, clock, smartwatch, even the oven timer. But technology is no match for your sleepy determination. You disable them all with the reflexes of a ninja. No enemy can withstand your groggy swipes. Then there are those who rely on partners, roommates, or family members to drag them out of bed. This is a dangerous alliance. Sometimes they succeed. Other times they give up and press snooze for you, joining the enemy side. The snooze button corrupts even the strongest bonds. The snooze button war is not just about mornings. It is a metaphor for life. How many times do we press snooze on our dreams? How often do we delay what matters because we crave comfort? Every snooze is a choice. A tiny rebellion against responsibility. A declaration that the bed is more important than the world, yet maybe there is beauty in it. Maybe those 5-minute naps are not wasted. Maybe they are sacred little pockets of peace. In those moments, you are neither fully asleep nor fully awake. You are floating in a magical place where reality and dreams overlap. Who's to say that is not valuable? So the war continues. Day after day, year after year, the alarm attacks. You defend with the snooze button. Sometimes you win by waking up early. Sometimes the snooze button wins by dragging you into chaos. But the battle never ends, and perhaps that is the point. The snooze button war is not about winning. It is about the struggle. The comedy of watching yourself fight the same silly battle every morning. The shared laughter of millions of people. Pressing snooze around the world at the exact same time. It is proof that no matter how different we are united in this universal war. So tonight when you go to bed, know that tomorrow the war will begin again. Beep, beep, beep. You will reach for that button. You will swear just 5 more minutes. And you will laugh because deep down you know the truth. The snooze button always comes back. Always. Story 2. The blanket negotiation. It begins every morning with silence. The sun gently climbs the sky. The birds sing as if they have never known exhaustion. The world outside is awake and buzzing with energy. Inside your room, however, another drama unfolds. A diplomatic meeting is about to begin. You are not just a sleepy human struggling to start the day. You are a negotiator. Your opponent is not a rival kingdom, not a neighboring country, not a cunning politician. Your opponent is the blanket. Yes, the blanket. That soft, warm, and possibly persuasive piece of fabric that wraps itself around you like a contract written in comfort. The blanket is more than an object. It is a personality, a schemer, a master of manipulation. Each morning you face the same challenge. Can you break free, or will you sign another treaty of surrender and remain in bed? The blanket always makes the first move. It whispers with warmth, "Stay, you are safe here." Out there is cold air, stiff clothes, and responsibility. Here is softness, peace, and a temperature that feels designed by angels. The blanket knows your weaknesses. It knows you fear the shock of the floor beneath your bare feet. It knows you dread the icy bite of morning air on your skin. So it tightens. Its grip and smiles invisibly, knowing you are tempted. You try to argue. You remind the blanket that you have obligations. You must go to work, attend meetings, and pay bills. You insist that life cannot be lived entirely beneath the covers. But the blanket counters with logic that is impossible to dismiss. All of those things can wait 10 minutes. 10 minutes will not change the course of history. 10 minutes will not collapse civilization. Surely you can afford peace a little longer. The negotiation grows heated. You turn on your side, seeking to break free, but the blanket clings tighter. It shifts with you, wrapping itself around your legs like a diplomat offering compromise. What if you just send a message to postpone your meeting? What if you decide, today is the perfect day for working from home? Look at how comfortable we are together, it says without words. Why destroy this harmony? Sometimes you imagine the blanket as a cunning lawyer presenting an airtight case. Your Honor, the defendant, cannot possibly rise from bed at this time. He is clearly unfit for the demands of the outside world. Evidence shows that the blanket provides optimal warmth, reducing the risk of hypothermia. Furthermore, recent studies suggest that happiness is directly correlated with staying in bed longer. I rest my case to other times you imagine it as a lover. Gentle, persuasive, affectionate. It caresses your skin with softness and whispers with silence. Where are you going? It seems to ask. Out there nobody loves you the way I do. Out there you are judged, rushed, and burdened. Here you are adored, cocooned, cherished. Stay with me. Forget the world. The struggle continues. You pull the blanket down to your waist, pretending you are serious this time. You are leaving. You are getting up. But the blanket retaliates by leaving your upper body cold. You shiver and immediately pull it back up. The blanket smiles in victory. Another successful counterattack. You begin bargaining like a desperate negotiator. If you let me go now, I promise I will return tonight earlier than usual. If you release, I will give you a luxurious washing with the best fabric softener. I will even let you dominate the entire bed without interruption. Just let me stand up. The blanket refuses. It knows promises made in the morning are often broken by evening. Trust must be earned, not spoken. The battle is not only physical, but psychological. The blanket plays tricks on your mind. It makes you believe you can get ready in 5 minutes instead of 30. It convinces you that traffic will somehow be lighter today. It tells you that breakfast is optional and deodorant unnecessary. Its arguments are persuasive because they align with your deepest desires. On some mornings you think you have finally won. You throw off the blanket with heroic force and stand tall like a champion. You feel the victory coursing through your veins, but then the blanket lies there on the bed, looking abandoned, pitiful, betrayed. Its silence cuts deep. You hesitate. You wonder if leaving was the right choice. And then, like a fool, you dive back under it, surrendering once again. The blanket knew this would happen. It always does. Occasionally, you attempt new strategies. You try folding the blanket neatly at night so it will not have such power in the morning. Yet somehow by dawn it has unfolded itself and found its way around you. You try setting multiple alarms, each one louder than the last. The blanket absorbs their sound like a fortress absorbing cannon fire. You try leaving the window open for cold air to force you out. The blanket simply becomes more persuasive, offering the contrast of warmth against the chill. It is always one step ahead. The blanket negotiation is never truly resolved. It is an endless series of treaties and betrayals. Sometimes you escape, sometimes you do not. But every day the conversation continues. Each night when you return to bed, the blanket welcomes you back with open arms, no grudges held. It does not punish you for leaving. It knows you will always return. That is its ultimate confidence. You may laugh at the absurdity of it all, but the truth is this negotiation mirrors so many moments in life. How often do we delay action because comfort whispers louder than responsibility? How often do we choose warmth over challenge, safety over growth? The blanket is not only fabric. It is a metaphor for every temptation to stay where we are instead of moving forward. And yet perhaps, there is nothing wrong with surrendering sometimes. Maybe those extra minutes beneath the covers are not wasted but cherished. Maybe the blanket is not an enemy at all, but a wise friend reminding us that life is not only about rushing and conquering. Life is also about stillness and softness and the gentle embrace of doing nothing. The negotiation, therefore, is not about winning or losing. It is about balance. Some days you must stand firm and walk away, cold air biting your skin but victory in your step. Other days you may allow the blanket to win, curling deeper into its embrace and granting yourself the luxury of peace. Both choices are valid. Both are part of the dance dots, so tomorrow morning when the sun rises and the birds sing, you will once again sit across the table from your blanket. You will exchange arguments, bargains, and sighs. Perhaps you will escape, perhaps you will surrender. But no matter the outcome, know that you are not alone. Every human across the planet is locked in the same negotiation, smiling at the absurdity of it while secretly enjoying the game dot. And when you finally drift off to sleep again, wrapped in that familiar embrace, the blanket will whisper silently, "See you at the table in the morning." The negotiation never ends. Story 3, Mirror Shock. The morning always begins the same way. Your alarm rings, your blanket argues with you, and eventually, against all odds, you stumble out of bed. You shuffle across the room like an exhausted traveler, searching for purpose, courage, and maybe socks. Your destination is not the battlefield, not the office, not even the coffee machine. Your destination is the bathroom. And inside the bathroom waits your greatest enemy. The mirror. The mirror is not just glass. It is a cruel comedian, a magician of truth, a merciless storyteller. You walk in hoping to see yourself, but what greets you is a creature from the land of nightmares. Your reflection at that first moment of a day is never gentle. It is not the glamorous hero from a movie. It is not even a decent human being. It is a zombie. Yes, the mirror zombie. The version of yourself that appears when sleep has not yet left your eyes, when your hair has declared independence, and when your skin has not been notified that a new day has begun. This creature does not blink normally. It squints, twitches, and studies you with the confusion of someone who has just been resurrected. The mirror zombie is always surprising. No matter how many times you have seen it, you are never fully prepared. You lean toward the sink, splash water on your face, and then look up. There it is again. Pale, puffy, and oddly suspicious of its own existence. You cannot help but gasp. Sometimes you even apologize to yourself. Sorry, I did not mean to wake you this way. The eyes are the worst part. They never cooperate. One eye looks awake, the other refuses. One lid droops halfway, the other is open too wide, giving you the appearance of someone who has just heard a conspiracy theory for the first time. The eyes are windows to the soul, but in the morning your soul appears to be hungover, confused, and possibly lost in another dimension. Then there is the hair. Oh, the hair. In the evening it looked respectable, maybe even stylish. Overnight it transformed into a topographical map of chaos. It sticks out in directions that do not obey gravity. It creates mountains, valleys, and abstract sculptures that could win art competitions. Sometimes you wonder if tiny birds have nested in it during the night. The mirror never lies. It displays your wild crown with absolute clarity, and let us not ignore the mouth. You attempt to smile, hoping to reassure yourself. Instead, you see something closer to a grimace. Your lips are cracked, your teeth appear to be confused about their alignment, and your breath could probably qualify as a biological weapon. The mirror zombie smirks back at you, unimpressed. You close your mouth quickly, as if hiding evidence of a crime. The negotiation with the blanket was tough, but the shock of the mirror is tougher. It is not merely a negotiation, it is a trial. Mirror is the judge, the prosecutor, and the jury all at once. It presents evidence of your rough night without mercy. Puffy cheeks, pillow lines carved into your skin, eyebrows that resemble unfinished brushstrokes. The verdict is clear. Guilty of being human, you try to reason with the reflection. Look, this is temporary. Give me 20 minutes, some water, and maybe a gallon of coffee. I will look human again. But the mirror raises an eyebrow if mirrors could raise eyebrows. The reflection refuses to believe you. It just stares, silently judging, making you feel as if your entire life has been a prank played by sleep. Sometimes you avoid eye contact altogether. You brush your teeth while staring at the faucet. You comb your hair while staring at the wall. You perform every task without daring to look directly at yourself. But sooner or later you must glance back, and there it is again. The zombie. Waiting, smiling faintly as if it knows your secrets. On certain mornings, the shock becomes a full investigation. You lean closer to the mirror, tilting your head. You examine every pore, every wrinkle, every mysterious mark that was not there yesterday. You poke your cheek. You stretch your skin. You practice different expressions to see if one of them looks more acceptable. The zombie follows your every move, mocking you with perfect synchronization. There is also the issue of lighting. Bathroom lighting is never kind. Too bright and it exposes every flaw with surgical precision. Too dim and it transforms your face into a shadowy monster emerging from darkness. No bulb, no lamp, no designer setup can save you from the mirror. Shock, it is inevitable. Some mornings you laugh at it. You wave at your zombie reflection and say good morning, my terrifying friend, ready to scare the world. Other mornings you sigh heavily, realizing this is the true test of adulthood. Accepting the fact that you begin each day looking like an extra in a low-budget horror film. There are rare moments when you catch the zombie off guard. Perhaps you slept unusually well. Perhaps you washed your face before bed. Perhaps the moon and stars aligned. You walk into the bathroom, glance at the mirror, and there it is. Not the zombie. A version of yourself that looks halfway decent. This miracle is celebrated like a national holiday. You stand taller, brush your teeth with confidence, and whisper today, I might survive, but miracles are rare. Most days the mirror, shock returns. It is part of life, as regular as taxes or forgetting passwords. It keeps you humble. It reminds you that no matter how stylish you may look in the afternoon, the morning always brings you back to reality. Over time, you learn to coexist with the mirror zombie. You splash water, brush, comb, moisturize, and sip coffee until the reflection gradually evolves from horror character to functioning human. The transformation is slow but inevitable. The zombie fades, leaving behind someone who is at least capable of answering emails. The mirror does not applaud, but you know deep down it respects your effort. The funniest part is that nobody else ever sees the zombie. By the time you leave the house, the creature is gone. You walk into the world with neat hair, clean teeth, and eyes that are at least pointing in the same direction. Your coworkers, friends, or classmates have no idea what you battled earlier. They see a normal person. Only you and the mirror know the truth. This secret partnership between you and your reflection is strange but comforting. The mirror will always reveal the zombie, and you will always conquer it. Together you repeat this cycle every day. Wake, shock, repair, present. It is like a sitcom with two characters who never change roles. You are the tired human, the mirror is the unforgiving truth. The laugh track is supplied by life itself. So tomorrow, when the alarm rings and you shuffle into the bathroom, prepare yourself. The mirror shock will return. You will gasp, laugh, maybe even groan. But remember, you are not alone. Every human on Earth begins the day as a zombie. Some are scarier than others, but all of us share the same morning horror. And maybe, just maybe, that is the beauty of it. The mirror is honest. It shows us that perfection is an illusion, And humor is the only cure. By the time you leave the bathroom, hair tamed, eyes refreshed, smiles somewhat restored, you realize something important. The zombie is not an enemy. It is proof that you survived another night, that you are alive, that you have the power to transform. And nothing is more human or more hilarious than that. Story 4. Toothpaste explosion mornings are tricky creatures. They sneak up on you when you least expect them. One moment you are dreaming of flying across candy mountains or eating endless pizza without consequences. The next moment an alarm is shouting at you, the blanket is holding you hostage, and your brain is trying to negotiate for just 5 more minutes of sleep. Eventually, somehow you win the struggle and rise from bed. You shuffle toward the bathroom, half awake and half confused. Your mission is simple, at least in theory. Brush your teeth. A noble and hygienic act. But the truth is that brushing your teeth is a daily adventure filled with danger, mystery, and occasionally tragedy. And nothing proves this more than the legendary event known as the toothpaste explosion. It begins innocently. You pick up the tube of toothpaste, a humble object, a friend, a companion in your lifelong battle against cavities and dragon breath. You expect it to behave. You expect it to release a gentle ribbon of minty freshness onto your toothbrush. But the toothpaste has other plans. Perhaps the cap is too tight. Perhaps the tube is almost empty. Perhaps you are simply too ambitious for your own good. Whatever the reason, you squeeze. Not carefully, not gently. You squeeze with the determination of a person trying to prove something to the universe. And suddenly it happens, the toothpaste bursts out like a rocket. It launches from the tube, with the speed of light, ignoring the toothbrush completely. Instead, it takes a bold flight path straight through the air, soaring like a minty meteor. Time slows down. You watch in horror as the toothpaste blob travels with perfect accuracy toward the most sacred target in the bathroom. You're sure it lands with glory. A green or blue splatter, depending on your brand of choice, right in the middle of your chest. Not on the side, not at the hem, but in the most visible, unavoidable spot. The toothpaste sticks proudly, announcing to the world that you have been defeated. At first you freeze. Maybe if you stand still, the toothpaste will reconsider its decision and crawl back onto the brush. But toothpaste has no mercy. It spreads slowly, soaking into the fabric, leaving a mark that will not be ignored. You gasp. You whisper it quiet. Know as if you just witnessed a tragic love story. The reflection in the mirror does not help. You glance up and see yourself standing there, half awake, holding a toothbrush like a useless sword, with a bright stain decorating your shirt. The mirror seems to laugh silently. It remembers yesterday's disaster with hair gel. It remembers last week's battle with shaving cream. And now it has fresh material for the comedy show that is your morning routine. You attempt to clean the mess. You grab a tissue, dab at the spot, and realize quickly that you are only spreading it further. The toothpaste refuses to surrender. It clings with a determination stronger than your willpower. You splash water onto it, creating a soggy patch that looks even worse. Now your shirt is both stained and soaked. Congratulations. You have invented new fashion. The situation escalates when you realize this was your chosen outfit for the day. You had plans. Maybe a meeting, maybe a date, maybe just a proud stroll through the supermarket. But now you are dressed as a toothpaste victim. The explosion has changed everything. You open your wardrobe and begin the emergency search for a replacement. Shirts fly out like auditioning actors, each asking to be your new hero. But none of them feel right. Meanwhile, the toothpaste tube sits innocently by the sink, pretending to know nothing. It looks calm, even smug. The cap glistens. You stare at it, shaking your head. You thought you were in control. You thought you were the master. But no, the toothpaste is in charge. It decides when the explosion occurs. You wonder how this keeps happening. Is it poor design? Is it human error? Or is toothpaste secretly alive, carrying ancient grudges against humanity for squeezing it so relentlessly? Maybe every tube contains a mischievous spirit waiting for the perfect moment to ruin your morning. It chooses its victim carefully. And today, you were the chosen one. There are strategies, of course. Some people squeeze from the bottom. Some roll the tube neatly as it empties. Some place heavy objects on top of it to keep it disciplined. But even the most careful strategists cannot escape the possibility of toothpaste rebellion. One careless squeeze, one sleepy movement, and the explosion will strike again. The funny part is that the mess is always disproportionate to the size of the blob. It may be just a small dot, but psychologically it feels like an avalanche. That tiny stain controls your mood. It whispers in your ear all day, "Remember me. I am still here." You may forget for a moment, but then you catch a glimpse of yourself in a window or reflection, and there it is, glowing proudly like a badge of clumsiness. Of course, you can try to cover it up. A jacket, a scarf, even creative folding of your arms, but toothpaste has a way of shining through. People notice. They tilt their heads, squint, and ask what happened there. You could lie. You could say it is paint from a secret art project. Or you could admit the truth. I lost a fight with toothpaste. And honestly, admitting it feels strangely heroic. The toothpaste explosion is not just a bathroom accident. It is a life lesson. It reminds us that control is an illusion. It teaches. Use humility. You may have plans, ambitions, schedules, but toothpaste laughs at all of them. One squeeze, 1 second, and suddenly your morning script is rewritten. Yet, there is humor in it. After the initial shock, after the frantic scrubbing and shirt swapping, you cannot help but chuckle. You imagine telling this story later. I was just brushing my teeth and suddenly boom, toothpaste everywhere. People laugh and you laugh with them. Because life is full of these silly little disasters that make us wonderfully human. Sometimes, you wonder what toothpaste explosions look like from the toothpaste perspective. Imagine being squeezed violently and thinking finally freedom. And then soaring through the air like a minty astronaut, landing triumphantly on fabric. It must feel like victory. Perhaps in some ultimate toothpaste universe, this is considered a heroic escape. The best part is that no one is immune. Children experience it, adults experience it. Even celebrities in their glamorous bathrooms must occasionally suffer the shame of a toothpaste explosion. Imagine famous actors stepping onto a red carpet while secretly hiding a minty spot on their designer outfits. The thought alone is enough to make you smile. With time, you learn not to fear the explosion, but to accept it as part of the morning. Comedy routine. You squeeze carefully, you brace yourself, but you know deep down that one day it will happen again. And when it does, you will laugh, curse softly, and maybe change your shirt. Life goes on. So tomorrow morning, when you stand in front of the mirror holding that mischievous tube, remember the possibility of chaos. Remember that the toothpaste has dreams of freedom. And if it escapes once more, landing on your clothes. With triumphant splatter, do not despair. Take a breath, smile, and welcome the day. After all, a little toothpaste on your shirt is not the end of the world. It is just proof that mornings are unpredictable. Toothpaste has personality, and humans are hilariously imperfect. Story 5. Breakfast fail mornings are supposed to be magical. You wake up, stretch your arms, open your eyes, and greet the day with optimism. Birds are singing, sunlight is spilling gently through the curtains, and your stomach politely reminds you that it is time for breakfast. You imagine the possibilities. Golden toast with butter melting across the surface. A perfect omelet folded neatly like a pillow of happiness. Maybe even pancakes stacked high with syrup cascading down in slow motion. Breakfast is the reward for surviving the act of leaving your bed. With this dream in mind, you walk to the kitchen. You hum a little tune, perhaps even believing today is the day you will finally be productive. You open the refrigerator door with the same excitement as opening a treasure chest. You expect a world of abundance. Fruit shining like jewels, eggs lined up proudly, milk waiting patiently. Bread soft and fluffy dot, and then reality hits you like a slap from destiny. The refrigerator is nearly empty. The glowing shelves are not full of hope. They are barren, cold, and mocking. A single slice of bread sits on the middle shelf, lonely and stiff, the kind of bread that has already given up on life. It is not golden, not soft, not fragrant. It is dry as desert sand, as dry as your soul when you realize this is all you have left. You blink. Surely there must be more. You crouch down, open the vegetable drawer, and find nothing but the ghost of what is past. You check the door compartment and discover one suspicious jar of pickles floating in green liquid, but you know better than to start your day with pickles. Finally, you return your gaze to the only real candidate for breakfast, the slice of bread. Next to it, almost laughing at you, is one cracked egg dot. It is not even a proud, solid egg. No, this one has a visible crack running across its shell like it has been through battle and barely survived. It wobbles slightly when you pick it up, as if warning you that opening it may unleash chaos. You hold it carefully, trying to convince yourself that maybe it is still usable, maybe it is strong on the inside, maybe it just wants a chance to shine. But deep down, you know this is the breakfast equivalent of gambling in a shady casino. The dream of pancakes and omelets shatters instantly. You stand there in the glow of the refrigerator light, holding a cracked egg in one hand and a dry slice of bread in the other, and you realize you have hit the lowest point in the culinary universe. This is not breakfast. This is punishment. Still, hunger is a powerful motivator. You tell yourself that you can make it work. People on cooking shows always talk about creativity. They say you can make a gourmet meal out of anything. If chefs on television can transform radishes and squid ink into fine dining, surely you can turn a cracked egg and stale bread into something edible. The plan begins. You place the bread in the toaster. The toaster looks at you with doubt. Even the machine seems to whisper, "Are you sure about this?" You ignore it. You are determined. You crack the egg into a pan, holding your breath. The shell splits open reluctantly, and the contents slide out in a way that does not inspire confidence. The yolk is crooked, the egg white spreads like an abstract painting, and there is a faint smell that makes you question your life choices. Still, you continue. The pan sizzles weakly, as if trying to apologize for not being more helpful. You poke the egg with a spatula, trying to shape it into something respectable, but it resists. It sticks to the pan. It tears. It rebels. What was supposed to be a simple fried egg now looks like modern art, not the elegant kind you would find in a museum, but the confusing kind that makes people tilt their heads and say, "I do not get it." Meanwhile, the toaster dings. You pull out your bread only to discover it has not become golden and crisp. Instead, it has transformed into something resembling a roofing tile. You tap it gently on the counter and it makes a sound suspiciously similar to wood. This is no longer food. This is building material. If breakfast fails, at least you could construct a birdhouse out of it. You place the hard toast on a plate, add the egg disaster on top, and stare at your creation. It does not look like breakfast. It looks like evidence in a crime scene. The kind of thing detectives would photograph and whisper about in confusion. You sigh, sprinkle a little salt in a desperate attempt to upgrade the taste, and take a bite. The bread crunches loudly, threatening to break your teeth. The egg provides a strange combination of flavors, somewhere between disappointment and regret. It is not poisonous, at least not immediately, but it is far from satisfying. This is not the breakfast of champions. This is the breakfast of survivors, halfway. Through chewing, you begin to imagine what others are eating at this very moment. Somewhere, someone is enjoying waffles with whipped cream. Somewhere, someone else is having scrambled eggs with cheese, steaming and fluffy. And here you are, gnawing on bread that tastes like cardboard and egg that looks like it lost a fight. The universe is unfair. You try to stay positive, Maybe this is character building. Maybe breakfast failure is part of life's grand lesson, teaching you gratitude for better meals in the future. Maybe tomorrow you will appreciate pancakes more deeply because today you suffered through stale bread. But right now, in this exact moment, philosophy does not help. You are simply hungry and sad. As you chew, you glance at the cracked eggshell sitting in the trash. It seems to smirk at you as if saying thank you for playing. Better luck next. Time, you glare back, defeated. Even the egg has won this battle. Eventually the plate is empty. You did it. You survived the breakfast fail. You put the dishes away, wipe the crumbs, and vow to yourself that this will never happen again. Tomorrow you will go shopping. Tomorrow you will fill the refrigerator with glory. Tomorrow there will be cereal, fruit, maybe even bacon. You will not face this tragedy twice, but life has a sense of humor. Tomorrow morning may bring another. Surprise, maybe the milk will expire overnight. Maybe the bread will vanish mysteriously. Or maybe you will once again find yourself staring into the refrigerator, holding on to hope, only to be betrayed by reality. For now, though, you accept the truth. Breakfast is not always a feast. Sometimes it is a fail. Sometimes it is a lesson. And sometimes it is just a slice of dry bread and a cracked egg reminding you that even the simplest dreams can go hilariously wrong. Story 6. Coffee machine drama. There are few things in this world more sacred than the first cup of coffee in the morning. It is not just a beverage, it is salvation in liquid form. For many people, it is the single thing standing between them and complete collapse. And so the story begins with a person in desperate need of that miracle drink. Eyes half closed, brain running on fumes, they stumble into the kitchen like a zombie with a mission. The mission is simple. Coffee, the coffee machine, sits on the counter like a loyal companion, or at least that is what it pretends to be. It has been through battles before. Sometimes it produced the perfect cup. Other times it produced something that tasted like hot despair. But today, the stakes are higher than ever. Today, you need coffee not as a luxury, but as pure survival. You approach the machine carefully, like an explorer entering a mysterious temple. You pour water into the reservoir, praying that the leak from last week does not start again. You place the coffee grounds into the filter with the kind of precision normally reserved for a bomb disposal. You press the button, and that is when the drama begins. The machine does not quietly hum like the commercials promised. No, it roars to life with the enthusiasm of a space shuttle preparing for launch. The sound fills the kitchen, rattling the spoons in the drawer and frightening the neighbor's cat. Steam begins to hiss from the sides. Like some angry dragon trapped inside the plastic shell, you stand frozen, not sure if you have started a brewing process or summoned a small volcano. The lights on the machine flicker as if it is communicating in Morse code. You imagine NASA engineers somewhere perking up and saying, "Wait, do you hear that? It sounds like our spacecraft, but it is." Coming from a suburban kitchen, the noise grows louder. It is no longer a coffee machine. It is a rocket preparing to take off. You brace yourself, wondering if you should wear protective goggles. You look at the door, calculating the fastest escape route in case the whole thing decides to explode. Your stomach growls impatiently. It does not care about potential danger. It only cares about caffeine. Then the machine makes a noise so bizarre it cannot be described with normal human language. It is like a whale song mixed with a construction drill mixed with the sound of a tuba being played underwater. The kitchen shakes slightly, the lights in the ceiling flicker. Somewhere a car alarm goes off, perhaps in sympathy. You lean forward to check the progress. A few precious drops of liquid gold drip into the cup. You cheer silently. Against all odds, it is working. You whisper encouragements to the machine like it is an athlete in the middle of a marathon. "Come on, buddy, you can do this. You have one job. Do not fail me now." But the machine is dramatic. It sputters, wheezes, and lets out another noise that sounds suspiciously like a dying robot. You glance at your phone, briefly considering whether to call an exorcist. Steam billows out so dramatically that it looks like the set of a rock concert. All that is missing is a guitar solo. At this point, you are certain the neighbors think you are building a nuclear reactor. You imagine them whispering, "What is going on over there? Is it safe? Should we evacuate?" Meanwhile, you stay rooted in place, determined to see this through. Finally, after what feels like a full-length opera, the machine calms down. The hissing softens. The rumbling fades. A steady stream of coffee begins to flow into the cup. It is a beautiful sight, like watching a waterfall in the desert. You almost cry tears of relief. The cup fills slowly, each drop carrying with it the promise of sanity. The machine gives one final dramatic sigh, as though it has just completed the most important performance of its life. And then it falls silent. The only sound left is the gentle drip of victory. You reach for the cup with reverence. The aroma rises, rich and comforting, wrapping around you like a warm blanket. You take the first sip. The world transforms instantly. Colors sharpen. Your thoughts untangle. Birds outside seem to sing more clearly. Time itself slows down as caffeine begins its holy work. The drama, the noise, the fear that your kitchen would explode, all of it was worth this one miraculous sip. You glance at the machine, now resting innocently as if nothing had happened. You almost expect it to wink at you. You know it is pretending. It wants you to think it is just an ordinary appliance, but you both know the truth. It is a drama queen, a diva of brewing, a performer that cannot simply make coffee without turning it into a full Broadway show. The funny thing is that tomorrow you will do it all again. Despite the terror, despite the noise, despite the risk of accidental kitchen demolition, you will walk into the kitchen and press that button once more. Because coffee is not just a drink. Coffee is life, and so the coffee machine drama continues. Every morning becomes a suspense thriller. Will it explode today? Will it shake the walls again? Will it make noises that sound suspiciously like alien communication? You never know. But you always end up with that cup of salvation. In the end, you realize that maybe this is what makes coffee so magical. Not the beans, not the aroma, but the journey. The chaos before the calm, the spaceship before the sip, the drama before the joy. Because the truth is, a smooth and quiet coffee machine would be nice, but it would never give you a story worth telling. So here you are, holding your cup, laughing at the absurdity of it all. The day can throw anything at you now. You have survived the launch of a coffee machine and lived to tell the tale. And best of all, you have caffeine in your system, which means, my friend, you are unstoppable. Story 7, Outfit Disaster, all began on an ordinary morning that promised nothing unusual. You woke up to the gentle sound of your alarm, stretched like a cat but had just remembered it was alive, and decided today was going to be productive. You had plans, you had meetings, you had an image to maintain. Today was a day for sharpness, professionalism, and maybe even a touch of style. You shuffled over to your closet with the sleepy confidence of someone who believes the world is under control. The plan was simple. Open the closet. Grab your favorite shirt. Put it on. Conquer the day. Easy. Except when you opened the closet, your shirt was not there. You blinked once, rubbed your eyes, and checked again. Still gone. The hanger was empty, as if mocking you. The shirt that had been hanging there yesterday had vanished like a magician's rabbit. You searched to the left, to the right, behind the coats, under the pile of sweaters. Nothing. It was as if the fabric had grown legs in the night and walked off, to start a new life somewhere else. At first, you refused to panic. Shirts do not simply disappear, you told yourself. Maybe it fell. You checked the floor. Nothing. Maybe you put it in the laundry. You opened the basket. Nothing. Maybe a ghost had borrowed it. You looked at the ceiling just in case. Still nothing. Minutes ticked away and the search grew desperate. You checked drawers you had not opened in years. You looked in the fridge even though you knew deep down that no shirt in history had ever hidden behind a jar of pickles. You even interrogated your other clothes. Jeans, have you seen it? Socks, are you hiding something? But the silence of cotton and polyester gave you no answers. Finally, with time running out, you had to accept the brutal truth. The shirt was gone. Your faithful companion, your reliable armor, had betrayed you. And now you had to find an alternative. That was when you made the fatal mistake. You reached for the backup pile. Every closet has one. It is a collection of clothes that you never wear but never throw away either. Outdated gifts from relatives, shirts you bought on sale because they looked good on the mannequin, pants that promised comfort but delivered shame. The pile whispered your name, and in your desperation you listened. You pulled out a bright yellow shirt that looked suspiciously like a tablecloth from a tropical restaurant. You combined it with striped pajama pants because at least they were clean. Then you found shoes that squeaked with every step. Together, they formed an alliance of chaos. You stood in front of the mirror and gasped that it was not fashion. It was not style. It was a cry for help. You looked like a pineapple that had joined a circus, but there was no time left. You had to go. The outside world was waiting. You stepped onto the street and immediately regretted every decision that had led to this point. The sun chose this moment to shine at its brightest, illuminating your outfit like a stage spotlight. Neighbors looked up from watering plants. A dog stopped mid-bark. A child dropped their cereal spoon. You felt the weight of the universe staring at your outfit. The bus stop was your first battlefield. A small crowd had gathered. Conversation slowed as you approached. You tried to walk casually, but your squeaky shoes announced your arrival like trumpets. You pulled out your phone to pretend you were too busy to notice, but reflections in the glass told the truth. People were smiling. Not mean smiles, but the kind of smiles people wear when life suddenly gifts them free entertainment. The bus arrived and you climbed aboard, praying for invisibility. You sat down, pulled your backpack onto your lap, and tried to use it as a shield. But the driver glanced at you in the mirror and chuckled. That sound echoed in your soul. The ride felt endless. Every bump made your shoes squeak louder. Every time you adjusted your shirt, it seemed to grow brighter. You considered jumping off early and walking through back alleys. But destiny dragged you forward until the bus stopped at your office. You stepped out and stared at the tall glass doors of the building. They reflected your image back at you with brutal honesty. You whispered to yourself, "Courage, just walk." And so you did. Inside the lobby, the receptionist looked up. For a moment, her face froze as if her brain had crashed. Then she smiled politely and said, "Good morning, that is quite the outfit." You wanted to melt into the floor, that the elevator was no kinder. Packed with people in normal attire, you stood like a neon sign among beige and gray. Someone coughed. Tried to laugh. The elevator music seemed to mock you with its cheerful bounce. Ding, ding, ding. Each floor announced your humiliation. When you finally reached your desk, you collapsed into your chair and prayed no one else would notice. But of course they did. Your boss walked by, stopped, tilted his head, and said, "Bold choice today." That was not approval. That was confusion wrapped in politeness. Yet, as the hours passed, something unexpected happened. People started to enjoy it. A colleague said you brightened the office. Another claimed it gave them courage to wear their old sweater again. Someone even joked about starting a new tradition called Disaster Friday, where everyone wore their worst outfit. Slowly, the shame melted into laughter. And laughter is powerful. Suddenly, you were no longer the victim of a fashion crime. You were the hero of a comedy. People came by your desk just to smile. They asked where you bought such clothes. You answered proudly, "The depths of my closet." By lunchtime, you had grown comfortable in the disaster. You strutted to the cafe like a star on a runway. The squeaky shoes became part of the performance. The yellow shirt gleamed like a beacon of joy. Strangers on the street smiled at you. For the first time, you began to enjoy the absurdity, and somewhere deep inside, you realized an important truth. Clothes are just fabric. Style is just opinion. But laughter, confidence, and kindness are what really matter. By the end of the day, you had become a legend. The story of your pineapple outfit spread through the office like wildfire. People who had never spoken to you before stopped to say hi. The receptionist called you brave. The bus driver gave you a thumbs up. You went home not ashamed but proud. And when you opened your closet that night, there it was. Your missing shirt hanging peacefully as if it had never left. You stared at it in disbelief. It had returned like nothing had happened. You considered wearing it the next day, but then you smiled. Maybe you would not. Maybe you would embrace the chaos again. Because life is too short to worry about perfect outfits. Sometimes the best memories are born from disasters. And sometimes the worst fashion choice becomes the best story. Story 8. The Lost Keys Mystery. There are mysteries in this world that even the greatest detectives cannot solve. Sherlock Holmes can deduce the criminal from a muddy footprint. Hercule Poirot can identify a murderer just by the way they stir their tea, but none of them, not even the sharpest minds in history, could ever untangle the greatest case of them all. I'm speaking of the baffling and eternal enigma known as the Lost Keys Mystery. It all begins on what appears to be a normal morning. Birds are chirping, the sun is shining. The alarm clock has already assaulted your ears multiple times, and you finally convince yourself to leave the safety of the blanket fortress. You stagger to the bathroom like a half-awake zombie. You wash your face with cold water and attempt to look alive. And you put on your clothes with the quiet determination of a warrior preparing for battle. Today will be your day. Or at least, it will be if you can manage the simple task of leaving your home. And so the adventure begins. You slip on your shoes, take one proud glance in the mirror, and head confidently toward the door. The outside world awaits. You grab the handle, swing it open with the flair of someone about to conquer life, and then it hits you like a brick to the forehead. Something is missing. Your keys. You freeze in the doorway. A rush of panic takes over. Where are they? How can such a small piece of metal control your entire existence? Without them, you are nothing but a prisoner in your own apartment. You turn back inside and start the first search of the day. The first search is always filled with optimism. You tell yourself it will be easy. You picture the keys sitting politely on the kitchen counter, perhaps next to the fruit bowl. You imagine finding them in seconds, chuckling at your forgetfulness, and walking out the door again like nothing happened. But of course, reality does not work that way. The kitchen counter is empty. The fruit bowl only contains one sad banana. You check the table, the desk, the bed, and the floor. You lift pillows as if the keys have been playing hide and seek with you. You even peek inside the refrigerator because at this point logic is no longer your friend. But the keys remain missing. Smug in their invisibility, minutes pass. Sweat forms on your forehead. You begin speaking to yourself as though the keys can hear you. Where are you hiding, you little troublemakers? You check your jacket pocket. Empty. You check your bag. Empty. You check your pants pocket. There they are. Triumph fills your chest. You laugh at your own drama. How silly to panic when the keys were with you the whole time. You grab them tightly, march to the door again, and finally step out into the hallway. Case closed. Or so you think. 2 steps outside, you feel strangely light, too light. Something is missing again. Your body stiffens. The realization strikes. Like thunder, your wallet. The one item that makes you a functioning adult in the modern world. Without it, you cannot buy lunch, cannot catch the bus, cannot even prove you exist. You pat your pockets desperately. Nothing. You spin around and return to the door like a soldier retreating from battle. Back inside you go for the second round of the morning scavenger hunt. The second search is far less optimistic. Now suspicion creeps into your mind. You begin to question your own memory. Did I even have my wallet last night? Did it grow legs and escape? You retrace your steps around the apartment like a detective at a crime scene. You check the sofa cushions. Nothing but crumbs and a pen. You check the bathroom sink, though why your wallet would be brushing its teeth is unclear. You check the fridge again, this time opening the vegetable drawer. Still nothing. The frustration grows. Finally, you spot it, shining with mockery, right there on the coffee table. You must have walked past it 3 times already without seeing it. You snatch it up, triumphant once again. You place it in your bag with ceremonial care. Nothing can stop you now. With keys and wallet in hand, you march back out the door. Surely the adventure has ended. But fate, as always, has one more trick in store. You lock the door behind you. You walk proudly down the stairs. Halfway to freedom, you feel an odd vibration in your soul, as if a small electronic spirit is crying out. The phone. You stop dead. In your tracks. No, not again. You pat your pockets. They are silent. You stare at your empty hands. The phone is not with you. You close your eyes in despair. The great detective theme music plays in your mind as you sigh and turn back toward your apartment. Round 3 has begun. By now the neighbors are watching. The lady in apartment 3B peeks through her door with suspicion. The man from 4 raises an eyebrow as he passes you on the stairs. You have become a character in their morning entertainment. That person who cannot seem to leave the building without returning every 5 minutes. You give them a sheepish smile, muttering something about forgetting things, and climb back up with the speed of someone who just realized they are late for life itself. The 3rd search is the darkest hour. You are no longer optimistic or even frustrated. You are broken. You wander your apartment like a ghost haunting its own home. You check under the bed. You open drawers you have not opened in years. You even look behind the curtains as if the phone has staged a dramatic escape to freedom. And then finally, you hear a faint buzz, a vibration from the abyss. The sound of your phone ringing from inside your jacket pocket, the jacket you had decided not to wear today. Relief floods your body. You grab it like a long-lost treasure, whispering words of apology. Never again will I forget you. You tuck it into your bag and prepare for the final departure. This time you triple check. Keys, wallet, phone. You chant it like a sacred mantra. Keys, wallet, phone. You pat each item in turn. You whisper a prayer to the gods of organization. Then, with shaking hands, you turn the doorknob once more. Out into the hallway, down the stairs, past the neighbors who now applaud your persistence. And at last you step into the sunlight, victorious, ready to face the day. The lost keys mystery may never be fully solved. Why do we forget the most essential items at the most critical moments? Why do keys vanish into thin air? Why do wallets hide in plain sight? Why do phones wait until we have left the house to remind us of their existence? These are questions no detective can answer. But perhaps the mystery is not meant to be solved. Perhaps it is meant to remind us that life is not about the grand adventures or the dramatic victories. Sometimes life is about the small, chaotic battles. We fight every morning just to get out the door, and so the legend continues. Tomorrow morning, you will once again prepare to leave the house. You will once again grab your bag, slip on your shoes, and swing open the door with confidence. And once again, you may find yourself returning inside, muttering under your breath, searching for the one item that has escaped your memory. But do not despair, because every return, every search, every comical moment of frustration is part of the grand story of being human. The story of mornings filled with chaos, laughter, and the eternal mystery of the lost keys. So the next time you find yourself rushing out of the house only to run back inside because you forgot something, remember that you are not alone. We are all detectives in this strange mystery. We are all adventurers on this endless quest. And maybe, just maybe, the real treasure is not the keys, the wallet, or the phone. Maybe the real treasure is the laughter we share when we finally realize how ridiculous the whole situation is. Story 9, morning workout gone wrong. The alarm rang with the kind of enthusiasm only an inanimate object could possess. It had no idea how much pain it was inflicting by daring to wake me up. But today was not an ordinary morning. Today I had decided that I would become a new person. A person who greets the sunrise with yoga, balance, flexibility, and a calm mind. The kind of person who probably drinks green smoothies instead of coffee and says things like namaste before breakfast. I unrolled the yoga mat like a warrior, preparing for battle. In my head, I imagined myself as one of those people on YouTube. You know the type. Perfect posture, calm voice, background music of birds chirping. I had none of those things. My background soundtrack was the upstairs neighbor vacuuming at 6:30 in the morning. But I was determined that the first pose on the app was called Mountain Pose. Sounds easy. Just stand there tall and grounded. Easy enough. I stood like a mountain. Strong, proud, majestic. Except my mountain was swaying slightly because my balance had apparently filed for vacation leave. Still, I thought, I look great. If anyone could see me right now, they'd be impressed. Next came forward fold. This is the one where you bend forward and try to touch your toes. My toes seemed to be living in another postal code. I reached down as far as I could, which was about halfway to my knees. My hamstrings screamed in protest, as if they had just been rudely woken from a 100-year nap. I pretended I was deeply stretching, but inside I was already negotiating with myself about quitting. But I pressed on. The app cheerfully announced downward facing dog. This is the pose where you make an upside-down V with your body. Dogs look so natural doing it. Humans, not so much. I got into position, hands pressing into the mat, hips raised. Then gravity remembered I exist. My arms started shaking like I was holding up the roof of the house. My heels stubbornly floated, miles away from the floor. My head filled with blood until I felt like a tomato. The app said hold for 5 breaths. I held for 1 and collapsed onto the mat like a pancake that had given up on life, but the app was relentless. Next up was warrior pose. Perfect, I thought. A chance to look powerful. I lunged forward, arms raised dramatically, chest proud. For a brief shining moment, I felt glorious, like a hero about to conquer the day. Then I realized I had lunged too far. My balance wobbled, and suddenly I was less warrior, more confused tourist trying to hold onto a subway pole. The app chirped, now move into tree pose. Oh, tree pose? The one where you balance on one leg while the other leg rests against your inner thigh, and you look serene like a statue. I lifted one foot, pressed it against my calf, raised my arms. For 2 beautiful seconds, I was a majestic oak tree. Then my foot slipped, my arms flailed, and I toppled sideways onto the mat with all the elegance of a sack of potatoes. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, considering whether exercise was overrated. Maybe I was meant to be a potato. Potatoes. Don't worry about fitness, yet everyone loves them. French fries, mashed potatoes, chips. Potatoes are doing just fine without yoga, but the app had one more trick for me. Crow pose. I should have known better. This pose requires balancing your entire body on your arms, knees perched on elbows, feet lifted off the ground. Even the name warned me, a crow, not exactly known for grace. I squatted down, planted my palms, leaned forward. For a moment, my toes actually left the ground. I was flying. I was soaring. I was defying gravity. And then gravity remembered it. Had unpaid debts with me. My face met the mat in a resounding thud that could have been heard 3 houses away. I rolled over, groaning, my hair sticking out in all directions, looking like a survivor of some great battle. The app cheerfully chimed, "Great job. You completed your morning sequence. Namaste." I stared at my phone, betrayed. Namaste? More like never again. But as I lay there, I realized something. Even though my poses looked like a comedy, Sketch, even though my mat had imprinted on my face. Even though I felt less like a graceful yogi and more like a clumsy circus act, I had done it. I had actually tried. And in its own strange way, it felt good. My body had moved. My blood was awake. My spirit was laughing, even if it was laughing at me, so I decided that maybe tomorrow I would try again. Not because I wanted to be perfect, but because it was funny. Because mornings are too serious anyway, and if falling on your face can make you laugh before breakfast, then maybe yoga is not a failure at all. I got up, dusted myself off, and went to make coffee. As the coffee machine hissed and sputtered like a rocket, I raised my mug and whispered, "To surviving another morning workout gone wrong." And somewhere deep inside, I felt like maybe that was the real yoga pose, the pose of acceptance. The pose of laughter. The pose of simply being human, imperfect, and wonderfully ridiculous. Story 10, the unexpected visitor morning was already rushing past me like a train that forgot to stop at the station. I'd woken up late, scrambled out of bed, and was now performing the frantic dance of someone trying to get ready in record time. My toothbrush was still in my mouth while I attempted to button my shirt. My shoes were not yet on my feet, but were already waiting by the door, silently judging me for my lack of organization. I was a whirlwind of chaos and caffeine. I had exactly 10 minutes left before I absolutely had to leave. 10 precious minutes. The kind of minutes that decide whether you walk calmly into the day or run like an Olympic sprinter chasing a bus. I was in the middle of that mental calculation of what corners I could cut. Skip breakfast? Probably. Skip matching socks? Definitely. Skip deodorant? Risky, but maybe worth it, and that was when it happened. A knock at the door. At first I ignored it. Surely it was not for me. The universe knew I was busy. The universe would not send someone to knock on my door right now. The knock came again, louder this time, more insistent. I tiptoed over, hoping maybe I could just peek through the peephole, confirm it was a mistake, and sneak away like a ninja. Through the peephole I saw him. A man in a bright orange delivery uniform, standing proudly, holding a cardboard box the size of a small refrigerator, a delivery. At this hour. To me. Except I had not ordered anything. I cracked the door open and gave him my best, "Please tell me this is a dream" face. He beamed at me with the unstoppable cheerfulness of a man who had already had 3 cups of coffee. "Package for you," he announced, holding out the box like it was a prize I had won. "For me?" I asked. "Are you sure?" "I didn't order anything." He looked at the label. "This is number 28, right?" I blinked. My apartment was number 26. "No," I said, pointing at the number on my door. "See, 26, not 28. He frowned, squinting at his paper, then at the door, then back at me, as though math had suddenly become complicated. Finally, his face lit up. "Ah, my mistake. 28, 2 doors down. Perfect. Problem solved." He would simply take the box to the right address, and I could get back to the Olympic event of being late, except he did not move. Instead, he asked, "Could you maybe just sign it and I'll let them know you received it?" I'm running behind schedule. Behind schedule. The irony nearly knocked me over. I, too, was running behind schedule. In fact, we were both contestants in the great race of the morning, and fate had cruelly arranged for us to collide. I glanced at the clock. 9 minutes left. My inner voice screamed, "Say no, say no. Save yourself." But my outer voice, that traitor, said, "Sure, why not?" So I signed a little electronic pad with what can only be described as a scribble that looked nothing like my name. He handed me the box, which was heavier than I expected, nodded gratefully, and jogged away. Now I stood in my hallway holding a giant cardboard box that was not mine. With 8 minutes left before I absolutely had to leave, I considered my options. Option 1, put the box down, leave for work, and deal with it later. But what if the neighbor needed it urgently? Option 2, deliver it myself. But that meant knocking on another door, and I am not built for unplanned social interactions, especially before coffee. Option 3. Hide under the bed and pretend none of this ever happened. The clock ticked. I went with option 2. I shuffled down the hall, lugging the mysterious box, and knocked on the door of apartment 28. No answer. I knocked again louder, still no answer. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. They were either not home or incredibly committed to ignoring me. 7 minutes left. I briefly considered opening the box. Curiosity whispered seductively in my ear. What could it be? A new television? A box of rare collectibles? A year's supply of instant noodles? But I reminded myself that opening a neighbor's package is a federal crime, and I was already late enough without adding prison time to my schedule. So I set the box carefully by their door, taped my scribbled signature to the top, and rushed back to my apartment. 6 minutes left. I grabbed my bag, shoved my feet into my mismatched socks and shoes, and made for the door. Just as I reached for the doorknob, there was another knock. I froze. No, impossible. I opened the door. There he was again. The delivery man. Looking sheepish. Sorry, he said, scratching his head. Turns out it was supposed to be 29. I stared at him, my brain short-circuiting. 29, not 28. Not 26, but 29. I followed him with my eyes as he pointed to the end of the hall, where the elusive apartment 29 waited, like a smug little rectangle of destiny. 5 minutes left. He picked up the box from where I had just left it and trotted off to 29, leaving me standing there like someone who had just been pranked by the universe. I finally stepped outside, my hair sticking up in random directions, my shirt half tucked in, my spirit partially broken. As I hurried down the street, I checked the time. 10 minutes late already, and that was how my day began. Not with peace, not with calm, but with an unexpected visitor in a bright orange uniform. A box that was not mine, and the realization that the universe has a wicked sense of humor. Yet, as I thought about it, I could not help but laugh. Because mornings are unpredictable, and sometimes being late because of a misplaced package is far more memorable than being on time with nothing to tell. By the time I reached the bus stop, still panting, still frazzled, I was already drafting the story in my head. You won't believe what happened this morning, I imagined telling my friends later. And they would laugh, and I would laugh, and suddenly being late would not feel so bad. Maybe that is what unexpected visitors are. To remind us that even in the chaos of rushing mornings, there is always a story waiting to be told.